Ian and Ron and Mark have asked me to talk about promoting change and talk a lot about what Ofwat is doing within the work we have around innovation. For those of you who know me, I'm a great fan of innovation and do everything I can to create the environment to promote innovation across the sector as a whole. What I'm going to do and talk about is what does Ofwat see innovation as, and talk about the various aspects of that. What are we doing to encourage innovation? There has been an industry group called the Innovation Leadership Group, so I'm going to touch a bit on the work they've been doing and talk about some of the outputs that they have done as a group. And that's a higher level regulatory group just talking about innovation and looking at how we can stimulate it through incentives and cultural change. And then I'm going to talk about stimulating innovation within the future price limits work that's ongoing at the moment. Now, I'm going to be talking about that from the consultation that went out in November. Consultation closed in mid-February, and we are due, virtually at this moment, colleagues are busy writing away the final versions of the future price limits document, which will be going out in the next few weeks. So I'm not actually at liberty to say about what's in that document, but I will be talking about what was in the consultation and what aspects within that are there to stimulate innovation. And then finally, I'll bring it all together with some conclusions at the end. So, first, and I think it's actually quite difficult to actually sit down and write down, well, what do you think the definition of innovation is? And the paragraph we see there is actually the culmination of all the different regulatory bodies coming together and actually having that debate as to what we believe innovation is and how it was there. I think at the end of the day, the key for us was that it delivers. It's actually delivering a benefit. And ultimately that can be in either customer service, improvement to the environment, or in terms of cost efficiency. And we've spent quite a lot of time in the last 20 odd years since privatisation working hard on innovation. And actually we've made a great deal of improvements and we've delivered a great deal in that environment in that time period, both to customer service, the environment, and in cost efficiency. And a lot of that is played back to us through the recent work that's occurring with Infrastructure UK, and they published just this last week quite a bit of work where they've been looking at the cost efficiency of the different sectors, and the water sector does very well in comparison with others. And part of that has been at that drive for efficiency, and a lot of the work we've done today has been around that productive efficiency. And we're going to talk a bit more in the future price limits about how that is now needs to change and adapt, and that's part of the challenges going forward. If we look at the innovation chain, there are lots of different ways in which that innovation is being delivered through research, development, trialling, piloting and implementation. Lots of stuff starts at the top end, and it slowly, as it works its way down, it doesn't necessarily all make its way into implementation. And that's the real challenge, I think, for all of us, is how can we actually get through that innovation, actually get it to deliver? Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't deliver, it isn't actually innovation. So there's a real challenge there. And a lot of the issues I see is in that kind of trialling and piloting area is where the real challenges are to break through. And there are some great ideas happening in research and development. We can't seem to get it through and deliver it on the ground to actually make it happen. Yet people are working very hard to make that occur. But how do we create that environment, and how do we enable that to occur? So, if we look at the Ofwat strategy around innovation, we have a commitment to developing an innovative industry, delivering best value for consumers and sharing the benefits. And we see that the sector as a whole has to carry that out. It isn't the role of the regulators, it isn't the role of the companies by themselves. The sector as a whole has to deliver that. We're doing what we can to be proactive and enabler and encouraging innovation, and we'll talk about some of those aspects of change within the future price limits. We also recognise there are many different aims for innovation, and it is there for either saving money, enabling companies to deliver their targets, and innovation that delivers tangible benefits. And again, we're back to that delivery of benefits. And I think the ultimate quote for me is that one at the bottom. Innovative, sustainable businesses are successful businesses, and we want people to be successful. We want to see those deliverables occur. But there are many different sector views, and Mark touched on it on his introductory speech of all these different reviews that are there. And on this slide, I've just covered many of the viewpoints that are out there, and I think we can all recognise those. And people kind of pointing the finger and talking about why innovation isn't occurring left, right, and centre. And the question ultimately for me comes back to one of leadership. What is the leadership that all the parties have to play in the delivery of that, whether it be regulators, water companies, or just people within the supply chain? We've all got a role to play in leadership and delivery of innovation. And lots of discussion about funding, and funding can come from quite a lot of different routes. The route most people come and talk to me about is they would like consumers to fund things. But actually water companies themselves, through their outperformance, can reinvest in innovation. We can see private investment being brought in. Many equity people out there are willing to invest in innovation if they can see the returns. And we've also got the route of government and the taxpayer, and the TSB work that we're going to hear a bit more about later on in the morning is one such route, where the government is choosing to invest in order to stimulate the market and create international exports. So there are lots of different routes by which innovation can be funded, and as ever the answer is in all of those together coming and actually looking at how best to balance those risks of delivery. Moving now on to the Innovation Leadership Group, and it's made up of quite a number of different parties. You can see them all on the screen. I'm not going to read them out, doesn't my throat will let me. It's chaired by Johnson Cox, who's a captain of industry from many different water companies in the past. And Johnson's been very good at keeping us all focused and ensuring that we're clear on the outcome and the deliverables there. Its aims are clearly set out there, and we have a little website which is part of the Ofwat website, but it's there at the bottom so you can see all the different aspects that group has done. It meets about every 6 months, and as a group has been looking at how we can tackle some of those sector-wide issues around innovation. Initially that was around where do we see the priorities being, and our work more recently has actually been how do we start to look and tackle those issues of culture, and what can we do as a group of regulators to stimulate that issue. The priorities that we've worked through and set out, I don't think there's anything too surprising about those. Those are set out in priority order. There's a full document on the website which goes through all of those and where they see those issues being, and I think most people can see those issues and would understand those priorities looking at that. I don't think there's anything that surprising there. The interesting thing I find is that a majority of those things can be stimulated by technology, business processes, and just different ways of working ultimately. And I think that in itself is quite an interesting view, particularly when you look at the challenges of things like new telemetry and information systems. They can support so many of those different objectives.